What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Viall Files. Yeah, that's right. We got a title. I am very excited about today's episode, mostly because of my guest, Hannah Cranston. She is awesome. I'm talking about her when she's right next to me. Anyways, if you don't know who she is, you're in for a treat. You're definitely in for a treat. You also might know her from Young Turks, her wonderful and very funny and successful and interesting, captivating podcast, Too Much to Handle. She's also a HuffPost contributor. Yeah, that makes her very smart and interesting. My good friend, Hannah Cranston. Thanks for coming, Hannah. But let's just get right into episode 1 of season 23 of The Bachelor?
400, something like that.
What did you think, Hannah? Well, first of all, before we get into you're a Bachelor fan.
So I've watched 3 seasons of The Bachelor. I watched the very first Bachelor season.
Ever
when I was a child. Probably shouldn't have been watching The Bachelor. And then I watched Becca's season and I watched Rachel's season. Okay. And so
you've seen The Bachelorette?
I have seen The Bachelorette.
And you've never seen The Bachelor?
I think the first season, but other than that, I have not. Okay. I have complicated opinions about the whole show in general. Bachelor versus Bachelorette.
Let's dive into that.
Because I feel like a guy choosing from many girls is
sexist.
Life. Yeah, and a little patriarchy, for me.
It 100%
But then I feel like Bachelorette, obviously it's the same thing, but it kind of almost subverts that. And so
literally.
Yeah. So I kind of
like that better.
I kind of like that better. I flow with it more.
Is it more of a finally
we have the power?
We have the
power? A little bit, but it also just feels like a switcheroo from how life normally is.
Do you think that's how life is, though? Especially nowadays in 2019?
I feel like society presents it as such, but I feel.
And you dislike that.
Yeah, think about the fact that there's one app that puts the ball in women's court, right?
What app
Bumble.
is that? Okay.
Yeah.
But aren't the other apps then just mutual, in theory?
In theory, I don't think in
what
practice. What
makes them not in practice?
In practice, society. I think society and I think men in general. I think in general, and it's not great for men because there's pressure on them to do the choosing and do the work as well. I think it works both ways. But I do feel like oftentimes it's presented as men choosing a woman.
How much of that is that on the app, the men, and the women? Because the women I know a lot. I know a lot of friends who use apps, and whether it's friends or just people out there. The common message I hear from women is, well, I'm not going to message him first. I'm going to match with him and then I'm going to wait for him. So they put that on the men to make that position. The kind of big and playing into the old society of I want him to chase me.
Yeah.
I've asked, a lot of, my friends, good-looking women who I'm like, do you hit on men? Mm-hmm. If you see a guy at a bar, will you go up to him and say, hey, what's up? And almost never do they're almost offended by the question. And I will say, the more attractive these women are, the more offended they are about the idea that they should be the ones to go pursue men. I'm surprised by this, but to that point, how much is this on the app?
Well, let me ask you, if you were in a bar, would you prefer a very attractive woman to come up to you, or would you prefer to go to her?
I personally don't care. The conversation I have with people is, I think in general, when you are interested in someone, you get nervous, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter how good looking you are, think you are, right? Mm-hmm. Unless you are totally narcissistic and have an overinflated opinion about yourself. If you are interested in someone, and by interested, you have the fear of rejection.
Yeah.
To say well, I see this girl and be like, that is a total babe, and I want to say hi. And if you're really interested in someone, there's got to be this innate fear of, what if she doesn't like me? Or what if they're not interested? And therefore, it just naturally would get nervous. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of guys will not go approach. And I think what happens a lot with people who are considered by society to be traditionally attractive people are oftentimes the people who are worse at communicating or approaching or going out of their way because they're so used to the other sex being like, well, they'll hit on me. I find that especially with women who who I'll ask, do you ever hit on men? And they're just like, again, offended by the question.
Weird. Maybe I'm not that attractive, but I have no problem.
You're very attractive,
going
Hannah.
To guys
you're also a unique person where you're, progressive. You're right. You're like, right? Aren't you?
I like that PC term. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know Hannah too well, but I know her enough to know that she is of her own mind and strong opinions. And again, your opinion about the Bachelor, Bachelorette, but I think I don't think you're the norm.
Interesting. I definitely know that at least in my group of girlfriends, they will, if they see a guy, they're not necessarily going to go up and be like, hi, like, I don't know what people say these days. Like, what's your sign? Something like that. But I think they'll sort of like wave or make eyes and like very indicate that they
make eyes is not, that's not my question. Cause like I've asked this
make eyes that's an important component.
It is an important component. That is not, I'm talking about, would you walk up, like you see a guy, you see he's attractive, and for whatever reason, he's not making the move. You've made eyes. You both across the bar thinking like, I'm pretty sure we're vibing each other.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, he doesn't assert himself and make the move. Would you do that?
Yeah. I mean, I have in the past.
You have in the
I've
past.
gone up and I've
I'm not talking about making eyes. I'm talking about, well, I looked at him. I mean, like, what more can I possibly do? Like,
I glanced his way.
I touched my hair. I looked at him. I even think I gave him a half a wink. I mean, what the fuck? Like, but that's what I'm saying. I think that is not hitting on someone.
Okay, what is hitting on somebody? Saying hi?
Walking up to someone.
What do you have to do? I need the details.
I think hitting on someone would be risking rejection. So if we're going back to the side of at a bar.
What if he doesn't return my half a wink?
Well, then
that's rejection.
No, it's not, because like it could be like the guy's like, well, does she have something in her eye? Or the situation where you're like, I think she's looking at me, and you're like, you wave your hand, and all of a sudden someone walks behind and is like, oh, hey, it's finally good to see you. You're like, fuck, you put your hand through your hair thinking like, oh, she definitely wasn't looking at me. These are all things guys are, worrying about or thinking about, especially if a guy sees a girl and thinks that's what a babe.
What a babe.
You look intimidating. I mean, I look
intimidating?
You're a good-looking person.
Am I scaring you? Are you scared right now?
No, I mean, I'm just saying, I got to assume not every guy who wants to hit on you hits on you.
Oh, I totally disagree. I think guys who want to hit on...
You think every guy who sees you and says, that's an attractive person, I want to get to know her, has come up to you and said,
no.
Hi,
that's
my
what I'm
name's
saying.
Nick?
No, there's no way. Like, I think most people will look at somebody who they find attractive and not go up. I think it's probably a small percentage of people that will make that first move or try a half a wink or anything like that.
Half a wink.
I think that's... She has a lazy eye or she's flirting. We don't know.
I don't know.
Either or.
But I'm pretty sure she's super into me.
Yeah. But that's another thing too, is I think guys will assume that if a woman gives a half a wink or half smile, whatever, that she's into him, whereas girls need a lot more. Like, I need you to tell me that like I'm the one you want to marry before I believe that you like me.
As a strong, smart, independent woman, why do you need that versus why are you saying guys only need a half a wink?
No, I think guys assume. I don't think that's all guys need. I think guys assume that girls like them more.
Like the guy who's like, hey, I went to a strip club and I'm pretty sure the stripper's in love with me. Like that idea.
Or if a girl like laughs at his jokes, if a girl laughs at a guy's jokes.
Do you find that guys just assume all the girls like them?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
I can assure you I don't.
Every guy friend that I've ever had has been like, wait, like I feel like we were really vibing. And I was like, what are you talking about? We're friends, That's
not me.
Well, then we can both be unique, Nick.
Well, I'm just in that particular interest. Okay. So how many guy friends do you have? Have you had to been like, oh no, I'm sorry, we're just friends?
I've never had a guy friend not try to pursue that. Oh, it's actually very sad.
What do you do about that? How do you friend zone people immediately? And are you?
And let me know.
Are you aware
Clearly,
of that?
I'm not doing a good enough job at it.
Because I have a lot of female friends.
Yes.
And there are a lot of. I'm very careful about it.
How do you friend zone? Tell me.
Immediately, I start talking about other women.
Oh.
Immediately. If I meet a girl, right, and I think to myself, and I've had this happen, and I think to myself, I really enjoy this person's company. Mm-hmm. She's cool. I want to keep hanging out with her. Like, we become friends. We have mutual friends. I'm even like, let's grab a drink, like just, it's hard to meet good people these days, mm-hmm. especially like I've only been in LA for 3 years. So like, I'm just trying to meet people. It's not necessarily guys, women, like obviously I'm trying to date, mm-hmm. but I'm trying to meet people. And if I meet someone, I think to myself, I like their personality, but sexually it's not necessarily there. Mm-hmm. I'm immediately
start talking about other women.
Other like dating scenarios or whatever. I make it off the bat. They're like, I make it very, I go out of my way to make sure that they would think, well, why, if he's interested in me, why would he like ask my opinion about a girl he's pursuing?
I think we all sort of like secretly want a loved one or somebody that we want to like us, like to have their eyes opened. Like maybe you're best friends with them, or maybe you're in the friend zone, mm-hmm. or whatever. And or maybe you're in a bar and you don't know anybody. You want somebody to see you for you and feel that spotlight on you and have them be like, wow, yeah. I never saw this side of her, him before, or I want to be with them. So I think even if you start talking about dating other people, like they're like, well, one day, like that Taylor Swift song, I'm gonna reference Tay Tay, but like that Taylor Swift song, like You Belong With Me, like you start to realize like, oh, my best friend all along
sure
has been the one.
But that's classic. That's the classic example of like the exception, not the rule.
Yes, but I think it feeds into the whole fairy tale. You know what I mean?
You don't think you play into it at all?
I don't think I do. But I don't necessarily, like, I think when I'm flirting, it's very awkward. But when I'm, like, talking with a friend, it probably comes across as flirting because it's easy banter. But when I'm flirting, I'm very weird. I'm weird in general. I don't want to, like, misrepresent my awkwardness, but...
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just feel like you could maybe do more to, like...
I feel like you don't know me well enough to tell me that I should be doing more.
Well, you said every guy you're friends with has hit on you at some point.
Yeah, but like I think that's more of a relationship building, and I think that's part of it is we don't talk enough about platonic friendships between people who aren't necessarily sexually attracted to each other, because I think once you start feeling a connection with somebody, we automatically assume that maybe that would mean we could be in a romantic relationship because you feel that connection. And like you said, it's so hard these days to build an authentic connection with somebody. And so if you feel that, you're like, maybe you're just desperate for that hope that it'll one day turn into romantic or sexual, whatever it may be, because you feel seen.
Do you agree or disagree with the premise that it's almost impossible in a guy and girl friendship, especially a budding friendship, there's always one person who has alternative motives? And by motives, I mean like there's at least a curiosity yeah. about, is this going somewhere more than just friends? And do you think
at least on behalf of one person, I think you're right. Okay. I think there's curiosity. Don't you agree?
Probably. Yeah. It's hard. Yeah. There's usually something there. And if you connect on a friendship level, there's got to be some. And
that's for heterosexual relationships, like guy and girl. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, yeah.
Let's talk about The Bachelor.
Yes. Let's talk about The Bachelor.
And your disdain for a guy handing out roses to women. I will say it was a goal of mine on my season. I wanted to be like known as a feminist bachelor.
I like that.
Was my goal. It's hard to do because you don't control the edit and you don't control what they choose to share. The speech that every bachelor gives when he's done meeting the women, I talked about like it's their choice too, and you see more bachelors do that now. It is hard to do because just the environment is set up where the women think they're supposed to try to impress you in reality that doesn't really, that's what is shown, but in reality it's a lot of, like half after the first night, half the women are, and the bachelor's only into 3 or 4. Right. Half the women are like, I don't know.
Did you feel that you liked anybody on your season that that you were not necessarily feeling those vibes back?
No.
Where you were no? Interesting.
I was only into a very select few very early on,
and it was the same few for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and that's pretty normal.
Okay.
Think of it like, I mean, how many times do you walk into, again, a bar, and even if, and every time I'm sure you've gone out, there's been more than 30 men there. How many of you left and thought, even if it was any night, that even one of them was someone I could see myself being in a serious relationship, let alone getting engaged?
Never.
Yeah. So why people are surprised that the Bachelor, Bachelorette, after one night of meeting 30, even attractive people, you're not over the moon.
Yes, but there's the 3-6-9 rule, which I think comes into play. Are you familiar with this rule?
I'm not. I think I've heard of it, but remind me.
So you go into a bar, or we used it when I was younger with summer camp, right? And you get to the bar, and there's 3 guys or 3 girls that are hot, that you're attracted to. And as the night goes on, maybe you're drinking a little bit more. Now 6 guys are looking really hot.
Sure.
And then at the end of the night, oh my God, there's 9 dudes in here who's so flaming.
I am ready to party. Wow. The abundance of choices.
But I think it's probably similar to like The Bachelor. You're in a small quarters.
No.
You think it goes the opposite way?
It definitely goes the opposite.
Interesting.
Part of it is just the pressure, right? Like, there is a pressure on the show. And after this many seasons of the show, it's not, people ask like, well, do they make you get engaged? Like, there's no contract, there's no agreement that you have to, but there is kind of an unwritten expectation, mostly from the fans.
Yeah.
Because the few bachelors who have chosen not to get engaged have been crucified. And so this whole idea of like, well, you wasted your opportunity, you wasted our time. There's a lot of pressure built in. So it's kind of like, night one, I was terrified. And I think most people are, in terms of, I really want to meet someone that I actually like, because I recognize that even if I fall in love in this atmosphere and decide I want to spend the rest of my life with this person, I'm going to leave this world knowing that there's a lot to figure out. But I want to have that feeling, that desire to be authentic. And there's a fear of like, well, you can be picky and selective, where it's not one night at a bar where you get drinks and then you get a little loose and you're just like, oh, they're all kind of hot. I'm thinking, well, yeah, she's good looking, but like, can I talk to her for more than 5 minutes? Can she hold, like,
how much time do you get to talk to each woman? Would you, like, if you had to add it all up at the end?
If I add it, like Vanessa, who I ended up with?
Yeah,
I mean,
during the season.
I'm guessing, but less than, talking in hours, 72 hours.
Like, that's wild.
It's wild.
That's wild. You can't, it's just like,
that's a really rough guess, but it can't be that much more, and maybe it's less.
Yeah. No, and I've heard similar numbers from like things
it is
that
a
I've read.
relationship built on withholding love. The entire show, you're having these moments.
Yeah.
If you were on the show, we would have been done talking forever ago. But it would have been literally that first
thanks.
5. No, it wouldn't have even been my choice.
Oh, I thought you were saying you would have just
no.
kicked
What I'm
me
saying
off.
is, especially night 1, you're wonderful. You're at least week 3, Hannah.
We're not even gonna wait till the rose ceremony. Get this bitch out of here.
Nope. I actually sent a lot of women home on dates. I was like, yeah, which is hard to do. But anyways, if it was night 1, it's 5 minutes is eternity.
Yeah, unless you're Catherine from this season. Then you can get as much time as you want.
Well, that was gold. But so yeah, it's a lot of that. And then producers are just like, all right, well, hey, we got to go. Or even on a one-on-one date, which is like the gold star of time, 3 hours is a max of time. And in between that, you're still a lot of stopping and starting. So so for the people you do like, for the people you're thinking, I'm into her. Like, I want to get to know her. And for even the lead, you're just like, just want to know more, and there's never enough time. So when they pull you away, your desire to learn more is kind of escalated.
Yeah.
And so you're building this relationship with this person in your mind, the idea of someone. Not to mention you're hanging out with a bunch of other people, as wonderful as they are, you're not that into. So you're pining over this person. The other person on the flip side, who's in the house with the women, or if you're one of the women, if it's the Bachelorette, you're just in a house with a bunch of your peers talking about this person, and you're thinking, I hate them. I just want to be with this person. I just want to get to know more. And you build this person up. So every moment you have with them becomes more and more magical. And that's how the relationships build. And that's why every season you're getting an engagement that in the moment is certainly real and authentic. I mean, they're real feelings. Afterwards, it's kind of like, all right, who the fuck are you? And sometimes,
do you get to ask any questions behind the scenes?
Sure. There's the one night fantasy suite, which everyone talks about the whole sex aspect. Most of it is conversation, and a lot of it is decompressing and being like, all right, I mean, honestly, can I just ask you some basic questions I can't ask you, like that no one gives a shit about on the show? What do you ask? Well, two of the women from my season, I mean, I kind of knew what I was doing at that point, right? So a lot of it, two of them, I was just trying to get through the night by not having sex with them and still hoping they would think that I would pick them. Because in the fantasy, there's an expectation of potentially hooking up. Right. And if you don't hook up, they might think he might not pick me, probably, right?
Interesting, huh?
You know what I mean? Like if you were into a guy in this world, and it's called the fantasy suite, and you've never been on the show before, and you don't know what goes on.
But you've only talked for 72 hours?
It doesn't feel like that. It feels like you've been in this world at that point for 8 weeks, and you feel like you've known this person forever, and you've been in this world because it literally feels like you've been there for a year.
Yeah, but I would come in, I'd be like, where do you stand in your politics? Like, what's religion? What, do you want to have kids? Like, where do you want to live? Like, I have a lot of things I want to know.
But like, and I'm not saying you wouldn't have those questions, but keep in mind, it's 8 weeks, 9 weeks of living with a bunch of women and not having any privacy or any stimulation outside of that world. And if you happen to be into this guy, there's going to be sexual tension and build up, and then you are finally unleashed in privacy. And if you're at all competitive, which I imagine you might be a little bit.
What gives that away?
I'm just saying. And God forbid you think maybe even if you're like super confident, you're just like, I got this. There's going to be your insecurities and your ego is going to be like, well, maybe I don't know what's going on there. And you're going to want to lock that down. I mean, there's all this psychology that goes into it. It's the Stanford prison experiment.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
That's exactly what it is. So again, I'm sure you would talk about those things and those conversations happen, but there is that element. And so what I'm saying is I was very much, there's an expectation of, also, I'm pretty sure that Rachel and Raven, while I had great relationships with both of them. I respected them, and I felt like they were great, and there was definitely a connection there. I just felt stronger with Vanessa at the time, right? And so I also think they sensed that too, minus their ego and minus them like admitting to themselves, and there was a lot that they could feel confident in our relationships. I'm pretty sure they kind of knew. I mean, I've even heard from especially Raven, it was like, it was a lot of like her convincing me not to pick Vanessa. Which is like,
wait, how much of it do you think is love, and how much do you think
in reality?
No, like on the show. How much do you think is love, and how much do you think is competition? Because there's got to be a percentage breakdown.
But again, right? There's a difference between reality and what you feel in the moment. Because I'll never forget my first...
Looking back in retrospect for you.
Well, looking back, of course, a lot of it is competition and lust and infatuation, and they're genuine feelings. I'll never forget my first time on Andy's season, having not done the show, not knowing anything about it. I went in as like the skeptic. I was 33. I wasn't like some kid who like, I knew I was self-aware enough to know, I know I'm very competitive. This environment sounds like total bullshit, but I agreed to do it. So I'm going to be open to what it could be. And that's how I went in. And then I had this date with her. I'm like, shit, I fucking like this girl. And then at that point it was like, well, I'm here. I'm just going to go for it. And then but I was still like, I wasn't like, I had real feelings, right? And I was still always constantly every day trying to like reverse engineer in my head. How much are my feelings? Literally, I had conscious thoughts of how much are my feelings genuine versus how much of this is competition. And I honestly couldn't answer the question. Yeah. You don't know, because I knew I really, really liked her. I really liked her, but I was also aware of the fact that I was competing. I had to like think about this girl while watching her go on a date with other guys. I knew some of what she liked too. I mean, I didn't know to what degree, but I knew there was something. It's just impossible to know. And so you just kind of accept that you don't know and say, fuck it. in the moment. That's kind of how it works.
Wait, but I kind of love that mentality for real life dating, because so much of love in general is sort of accepting that unknown and saying fuck it and accepting like the ride of it.
I honestly think that's my problem as I've gotten older, is that it comes with perspective. As I always, like I said this last episode, you gain perspective, you become also slightly more cynical. You lose your innocence, you lose your naiveness. With naiveness comes this ability to like get hurt or make stupid decisions, but it's a little bit more exciting to say fuck it and be like, well, I don't know what I'm getting myself into, but let's go for it. I love you. This feels good. As I've gotten older, I'm just like, well, yeah, I like you, but I mean, come on, let's be real. Like, you do this, I do that, and this isn't gonna. Like,
what are those deal breakers for you?
It's not necessarily deal breakers. It's just, it's harder for me as I get older to fall in love. And I honestly don't remember the last time I've had that feeling of, I think I might be falling for you, outside of TV in maybe 6 years.
Do you think TV,
which is terrifying for me,
is what ruined that for you?
I don't think it helped, but no. I think it's more of a me thing. I'm an over analytical person, so that doesn't help. And again, I think as I get older, it's just perspective. I mean, part of it was I was the helpless romantic when I was a younger person. I had 3 serious relationships in my 20s. And I definitely fell for those women. And then since then, it was kind of like, well, you know, and part of it is I had to gain perspective to get over them, in a sense that I had some of those thoughts of, like, one time my first girlfriend, we broke up. I met her when I was 18. I was like 22. We broke up many times, right?
Yeah.
One of those.
Everybody has that
right?
relationship.
That first relationship.
Yeah.
And this particular breakup, she broke up with me, and I did not handle it well. I didn't know the concept of getting over anyone. I had never loved someone, so how do you do that? I think as you have relationships and you meet someone, eventually, if you are lucky enough, and I mean that literally, to get your heart broken and feel lost, and then eventually get over it, you become a stronger person. You realize, I can get over this. Holy shit, it won't actually kill me. And then you meet someone again, and it doesn't go well, and then, like, fuck, the pain is still real. Like, you still wake up, and it's still like, this sucks, I'm heartbroken. But the one thing you know now that you didn't know in the last relationship is, I actually can get over this. Yeah. Right? And so I think you just, as you get older, I've become, at least, too aware of that. This is Dustin, my producer, everybody. I want to talk to you a little bit about Outdoor Voices, which makes activewear fun.
Activewear, okay.
It's activewear.
All right.
Yeah, they believe in, listen, it's working out. Obviously, you want to have a lot of function. You want it to be fun and fashionable at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, that's, to be honest, like, I don't go to the gym that much, and that's probably one of my biggest reasons for not going, is that, like, I'm not going to work out in jeans and a t-shirt, and I have a hard time, like, I've tried buying some activewear stuff.
And you don't like the way it looks on you?
No, or it feels weird. Like, sometimes the material is too scratchy if I'm on a treadmill.
Also, more and more people are, like, wearing activewear in, like, their daily lives, and quite honestly, they're not looking awesome.
Right. Yeah.
If I'm just being totally honest, but
yeah,
Outdoor Voices solves that problem.
Well, and when you're in a gym, you want to look good.
Yeah.
Because you're surrounded by
because you actually might meet someone there.
People.
And I know people will be like, I don't want to hit someone in the gym, but we all sometimes want to hit on someone in the gym.
Right.
So, like,
or have someone hit on us.
You know, be your best self at the gym with Outdoor Voices. It breathes easy too. They have great technology called Tech Sweat. Yeah. I mean, smarter people than I have developed this, but the general premise is that it looks good, but if you do happen to sweat when you're working out, you're not going to be sweaty all day long. It's going to dry up very quickly. You're not going to then smell. So when that person comes up to you and says, "Hey, baby," where do you find Outdoor Voices? Well, it's really simple. outdoorvoices.com/Viall, VIALL, and enter promo code Viall for 20% off your first order of anything over $100. Thank me later. Also, just, like, take pictures of your Outdoor Voices. Tag me on my Instagram. Maybe I'll comment how good you look. I probably will. It could be, like, a great way to, like, meet someone.
It could be.
But, like, use my promo code. Also, what are you doing for dinner?
I also think part of it is as you get older, you become more of your own person. Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like when you're young, you feel like somebody completes you and you're so desperately wanting that feeling of completion and finding the puzzle piece that fits. But as you get older, you become your own person. You realize, oh, I don't want somebody to complete me. I want somebody to complement me, you know,
to help me be the best version of myself, but not make me the best person of myself.
And so if you're a complete person, losing somebody is not going to destroy you. It's going to suck. But it's not going to destroy you.
And I think that has, for me, that's perfectly well said. Like, it's made it harder for me to be vulnerable enough to really meet someone.
When do you put your walls down? Like, what does it take for you to really show that rawness, show that vulnerability?
I'm actually, it's weird because as someone who's, I don't think it was an accident that I've done what I've done on that franchise, because clearly I have the ability to just go for it and put my walls down. I don't think that's an issue for me. It's just, I think it's harder and harder for me to meet the person who really piques my curiosity. And define that because I think it's not like higher standard, like everyone likes to say I have high standards or like, but it's just really meeting someone, because I live in LA. My ability to meet attractive people isn't that hard. There's a lot of attractive people out here.
Yeah, it's a lovely town.
There's smart people, there's interesting people, but truly someone that I feel safe around. And by safe, I mean I can be myself. I'm very curious in what they have to say, in the sense that like I can be vulnerable, and I'm very interested in having them share their thoughts about my vulnerability or who I am. And I'm interested in what they have to say because it makes me feel better about myself. It makes me have a chance to like become a better I think that's just so hard to find these days. It's become harder and harder to find, part of which I think we're all kind of self-consumed. So it's just finding that it's harder for me to connect with someone that I really feel comfortable being myself around.
Do you think part of that comes with some of the fame or notoriety that you've gained? Because people probably have expectation. I mean, we kind of talked about this before the podcast, but I'm sure people like date you and then they have expectations of you because they know who you are.
100%. I get a lot of questions like from fans. Would you ever date a fan? Would you ever date a normal person? Would you ever date a non-celebrity? I'm thinking like, yeah. Like, I don't really make a habit of dating celebrities.
Yeah.
I have dated celebrities. I have, you know, and I will say, like, I remember growing up thinking to myself, as a kid growing up in Wisconsin, why do, like, you always hear, like, Brad Pitt's dating so-and-so, and then he breaks up with Gwyneth Paltrow, and he's dating Jennifer Aniston. It's like, why don't you date a normal person? Like, why are they always dating other actors? I will say that I appreciate having gotten some notoriety and having dated someone else who has some notoriety. It doesn't have to be an actual famous person. The ability to relate matters. The ability to like not have to explain yourself matters to me. And the ability to feel comfortable again with someone, that has affected my dating life. So I have gone on dates with normal people who, and like, I think they're like they're a teacher who they're fans. They're fans of the show, and they're just nurses or teachers or they're whatever. And some of them are, again, obviously I'm interested in the fact that I'm attracted to them. I want to get to know them. And they're like, okay, well, he asked me out. We're going to go out. And you can tell there's this, them trying to they're trying to relate to me. And they're trying not to act. I feel that disconnect of them not wanting to talk about the show, but they want to talk about the show. And so there's a lot of like, well, I don't care about The Bachelor. And it's just like, well, then why you ask? Like, they're finding different ways of asking the show, all while they keep telling me how they've never seen the show. There's a lot of that. And so that complicates it in terms of me dating someone who, and again, so I find it more comfortable, at least out here, to date people who at least understand. So whether they are a notable person, but maybe they work with other people, or they can just relate, or they're just not as, that has affected. So my ability to just date anyone, I feel like has reduced, and my ability to really connect with someone has shrunk because of my inability to connect with just anyone anymore. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does make sense because it is a unique position to be in, because there's so many different aspects to, I mean, at least like in my life, I struggle sometimes with mean comments, you know, or criticism and stuff like that.
You're dating, or do you have a boyfriend?
I am dating,
okay.
yeah.
How's that going?
It's going great. Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
But he's not in this industry at all.
Has that affected, like, how is that for you? Did you feel kind of similar things of being someone who a guy could meet, you know, as you have a social presence and you're very easily Googleable?
I am Googly. I'm googly.
So like, how has that
I've dated, so I've gone on dates with guys who, like, I went on a dating app date a few months ago before my current relationship. But he asked me all these questions about my career and was like, wait, I don't understand. And like asked all these questions. And then in the end of the date, like I think after 2 drinks or something like that, he was like, oh yeah, I watch your show. And I'm like,
that's a weird feeling, right?
It's so weird. I'm like, okay, so you know all this stuff about me. And then there was another guy who, like, again, claimed not to know anything, but like paid something extra to match with me on one of the apps. And then would ask me like all of these things about the people I worked with or about politics and stuff like that. I'm like, this is weird for me.
You immediately feel like there's some dishonesty there.
Oh, 100%.
Even though I get why they might do it, because they don't want to feel like they stalked you or whatever.
Yes. And I also think, I mean, I'm sure you face this a similar thing when people meet you because they've seen you and because they quote unquote feel like they know you. Sure. They assume and have all of these expectations about you. Like who I am on my show is me and I'm being authentic, but it's a little bit more like amped. Exaggerated. Yeah. Like I'm really quiet and very actually reserved at home.
Or even if it is, and sometimes people ask me, well, is that who you are on the show? And to your point is, yeah, it is me. But it's also like part of me. And I hope that I am like that. You know, like it might not even be amped because like that's who you are. And it's not like you're acting in a show, but like it's you going 100%. And sometimes like everyone, they like to unwind. People ask me about like villains and characters on the show. And the truth is like for the most part, no one is ever as good or as bad as they seem on the show.
Yeah.
They're siloed into a character and anyone could be a hero and anyone for the most part could be a villain. It's not to say that like things tend to work themselves out in terms of the characters that people are. But I've played both the hero and the villain on that show. You go on long enough, you're going to get an opportunity, right?
I think that probably holds true for everybody. Like that's your first impression. So if you see somebody being rude to a waiter on your first date, even though the next date they're the kindest person and you always going to have that little thing in your mind that is like, oh, this guy, you know, is rude to service people. And I think that's a deal breaker. You know what I mean? Whatever it is.
Also, you know, this brings up, I'm rambling now, but what's the worst for guys who hit on you? What's one of the worst icebreakers? And I don't mean like one-liners, but like, and I have something in mind of what happens to me all the time, but like, do you have something that guys tend to do to you when they approach you that you just, not only does it not work, but it annoys the fuck out of you?
I think if a guy comments on your appearance, I can't stand that.
Good or bad?
Well,
like, hey, you look really nice.
I hope they're not saying that I look like, hey, you look a little fugly today.
Well, no, people. I mean, like, negging's a thing, right? People all the time be like, hey,
I can't stand that.
It's like, that's an interesting choice of shirt. You know, like,
okay, both.
That happens.
Right. Yeah, both. I can't stand either one. Okay. Any sort of appearance-based
and you think that's because, like, that's what, like. Because
that's the
it's
first
not
thing
original?
Well, no, it's the first thing that you're commenting on. And that, to me, that bothers me. Okay, you disagree. Tell me why.
Well, I only disagree in the sense that, like, again, we keep going back to this bar or dating app. Like, let's not pretend that appearances aren't the first thing that people notice. And your willingness to walk up to a girl at a bar or your willingness to swipe right is 99% based off of their appearance and not because they said they like to travel in their bio. So I'm just saying, if a guy's nervous at a bar and just doesn't know what to say, who he's like, hey.
But there's a difference between saying, hey, I think you're really hot versus, hey, you have a great smile. You know?
Sure.
Or like.
But that's still the appearance.
Yes, I agree with you. And I'm just to your point that people look at appearance first. But I prefer somebody just say, hey, or like respond, like talk about something that's like a common experience, whether it's the song that's playing or if it's a dating app and we have something in common, rather than being like, damn, you look good. Like I went on a date from a dating app before I met my current boyfriend, and the first thing the guy said to me, having matched on a dating app where he's seen pictures of me, was like, wow, you're really pretty. It's like, what?
Thanks for your condescension. Don't say,
Fuck you. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
I'll get it. It's like, wow, you're like so much better looking in person.
Essentially. And then throughout the entire
I'm just going to go fuck myself now. They're like, no. I mean it to be nice. Like, again, fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. Or I've had it, the same dude throughout the date said 3 different times, like when I was speaking, he was like, wow, you're smart. And I'm like, well, why would you assume that I wasn't, asshole?
No, people do that all. That's kind of to my, have you ever had someone walk up to you and say, How's your resting gaze?
My resting, I have
We all do.
both a resting bitch face and an active bitch face. It's just constant bitch face.
My resting gaze is not often pleasant. But have you ever had a guy come up to you and say, "Why aren't you having any fun?"
Or tell me to smile. Like,
You should smile more. Nothing.
Oh my God.
I've had like New Year's Eve. I had 10 people come up to 10 women. Like it again. I get recognized when I go out, and I don't feel the need. I'm not a big partier, so when I go out, I'm comfortable with just going out and just chilling.
Yeah.
I don't feel the need to constantly smile. I don't need to go out and be the center of entertainment on the dance floor or be. Sometimes I just want to be. And I guess it looks like I'm not having fun. And more specifically, I'm certain that these women, they're like, they recognize me, they want to hit on me, they want to say hi, and they don't know what to say. So they notice that I guess it looks like I'm not having fun. So I'm going to ask them why, because I'm going to be his source of fun. I get why they're saying it. I understand.
What would you prefer they say?
Just say hi. How's it going? Or if they recognize you from the show, I'm also fine with that. I don't care. Don't pretend you don't know. Don't ask me like, why is everyone else like saying hi to you? Who are you? It's like,
do people do that?
All the time. It's just like, and some people are sincere, but some people, I know when you're lying, right? Real off the bat. And immediately I'm just like, but like this whole idea is like, let's have some fun. Or then they grab my arm and start shaking me. We should dance. Or like, can I buy you a drink? No, why aren't you having fun? You need another drink. It's like, I'm comfortable with the 2 drinks that I've, it happens all the time.
Well, let me ask you about the
nuts.
drink thing, because I feel like the drink pickup line is a very common pickup line that women receive. Like, can I buy you a drink?
Sure.
So if a girl asks you if she can buy you a drink, that's a turn off?
No.
Okay.
But if I have a drink or I don't need another one, it's not necessarily a rejection. I just don't want one. Right? And I'm also fine with saying yes, but if I don't want a drink, don't then immediately be offended and then neg me and then be condescending. It's like, oh, well, you don't like having fun? Or like, oh, what? You know what I'm saying? It's just, I just don't want another drink right now.
Yeah,
you know?
pushers out there.
It's like, chill. It happens all the time. And it's like, please, people, stop asking people why they're not having fun. It's not a good pickup line. Because I know that they're doing it as a pickup line. They're doing it as an icebreaker. It is the worst icebreaker you could ever have.
Okay, but what's the best one?
If you don't have a clever, witty line, the best thing is just being sincere.
Yeah.
To walk up with someone and say, hey, listen, I'm nervous and I really would like to get to know you. You probably have a boyfriend, but off chance you don't, can I get you a drink? You know, just showing vulnerability, whether you're a guy or girl, I think is probably it's the safest and most sincere way to have one say. So if they are interested, they immediately think to themselves, yeah, like you seem like, and dating people are nervous. So you immediately feel comfortable with someone who's willing to be vulnerable as opposed, and people don't seem to get that. Like the vulnerability of like, in my case or in your case, if someone does recognize you, there's a vulnerability in saying, I recognize you from the show.
You're right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so many people want to pretend, well, I would never watch that program. And it's like, okay, fine. Well, fuck you. Like, and again, I don't care if you watch a show or not, but it actually, and not that I'm not trying to necessarily date someone who's a fan of the show, but I recognize someone's vulnerability in saying, yeah, I watch a show, I'm a fan, and like, I'd be really interested to know you. That sounds so sincere and normal that I might, if I'm interested in her, think, sure, let's grab a drink.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I think
it's
you're right.
easy to talk to. And so many people want to put that wall up or they try so hard to be clever or funny or whatever, or like get on their level or nag that it's immediate turnoff. And instead of doing what, so the best line is to just, I would say, be vulnerable. And if you have a good line, if you're funny, fine, go with it. But don't be offended if they don't think it's funny.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think having that, almost that nervous, anxious honesty will go way further. Can you imagine if somebody said, instead of like, oh, let me put a drink in your hand, they're like, oh my gosh, my palms are so sweaty because I was so nervous to come up to you. Like immediately.
I'm a mess.
Yeah.
Like just. That's endearing.
Yeah, totally. Because that's how you connect with people. That's how you actually connect with people.
And you just have to recognize when you're going to approach someone, they might not be into you.
Yeah.
Like they just might not. I've always operated under the thought of when people ask, like, I don't like it when people say he or she's out of my league. I don't like that. I've never thought someone's out of my league.
Have you thought somebody both up and down?
No.
Okay.
But I also recognize there's a lot of people who won't like me. there's the difference, like just because someone's not out of my league doesn't mean they'll like me. And so like people are always trying to like fight that feeling. And if you just accept that, like if you're going to hit on someone, they might not think your joke is funny. They might not think you're as pretty as they think you are. And that's fine. Keep shooting, shooter, and just be vulnerable. And eventually someone will be like, yeah, I'm down. Let's see what happens here. I think I wish people would do more of that rather than the negging or the condescension. And I know they're not trying to be condescending. I just think it's an insecurity that comes out and a nervousness.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think that with rejection, like we often see it as a bad thing. Like if somebody's like, oh, I'm not interested in you. But I think if we reframe that as, oh, that's actually exciting because one, I'm being more efficient and I found out this person's not into me. And two, now this means I get to go find somebody who's fucking obsessed with me. Like how cool is that?
Yes.
Like there's somebody out there who is going to love you more than anything and want to do crazy things with you, and like whatever you're into they're going to also be into, and it's going to be amazing. But now you get to go find that person because you just found out that. Totally.
And I think some of that comes with age and maturity, because again, when I was younger, it was the same thing. It's just like, I got to get this person to like me again.
Yeah.
It's like, well, no, you're just wasting time. Yeah. All right, we're going to finally talk about The Bachelor. Thanks, but you're welcome for this rich dialogue before we even got into The Bachelor. What did you think, Hannah?
I have lots of thoughts. So here's my I'm like, let me start with the negative and end on the positive.
Quick, what do you think of Colton as Bachelor?
I think it's fine. It's fine. I would have. I thought it was going to be Jason. I really did. I know everybody wanted Blake, but I think the way that they framed Jason, especially during the Men Tell All episode, I was like, oh, it's for sure going to be him.
Here's what they do. They're looking at options. They're setting a few people up because they don't know, and they want to see how the audience responds. There's a lot of variables that go into why they...
But I think people loved Jason.
They did. They also loved Blake, and they really liked Colton until people got too much of Colton on Paradise. I will say, if you watch their... And I think I've met all three. They're all great guys.
Yeah.
The more I've gotten to know all three of them, and especially after watching their social media, there's a reason why Colton's the Bachelor and they're not.
What do you think that is?
I think, again, being the Bachelor is the hardest thing I've ever done. It truly is. You have to be on. It is a 20-hour day. You have to be able to talk to women constantly. You have to do a lot of hard things. You have to carry an entire show. You have to be able to speak and be articulate and give speeches. These are all things that go into their ability to choose. And they've taken risks in some bachelors who haven't been able to do it, and others. I'm not saying it's the end all be all, but those are some reasons why there's so many variables that go into it. But I think Colton he's very charismatic and dynamic, and he's interesting. He's got a good backstory. I think they've made the right choice with Colton, even though I think it's incredibly young. And my overall
opinion, he's 26, right?
26, but more specifically, his lack of dating. And the first episode for me it didn't seem like a guy trying to find a wife. It seemed like a guy trying to find his first girlfriend.
Oh, interesting. See, I don't mind him. Like I don't know him personally, so it's not for me to like pass judgment. But what I don't like about it is I don't like this, that the storyline revolves around him being a virgin. That there was like half the girls came up and had the comment about that. That to me is like, virginity is a social construct, and I think like putting so much pressure on it puts pressure on everybody who's watching, especially young men and young women, and like that to me is annoying.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was kind of an inevitable thing that show was going to do, especially episode 1. My guess is they'll get away from that narrative for a while. It'll come back up during the Fantasy Suites week, and that will be about it. But it was annoyingly obvious and kind of like, okay.
But I think he also was trying to combat some of that, and that's why he kissed like 3 girls on the first night.
Yeah, there's definitely...
Like, I think he's trying to level that out a little bit.
For sure.
Because I felt that in Becca's season, that I felt he was the most physically awkward with her. Do you know what I mean? Like the way that he leans into women, like I noticed a lot of those body like positions and stuff. Like the way he leans into Becca was very weird, and it was a little awkward even in the first episode. And it'll be interesting to see how that evolves through the season.
Well, there's a lot of, I think you can tell when you watch a show, the sincere relationships, because there's a natural connection. And even if someone is like top 3 or 4, like they know like I think almost every season, for the most part, it's always a 2-person race. And if you're 3 or 4, you might know there's a connection. Like Jason's never said this to me, but I would be willing, and there's no way I can prove it, but I know that Jason knew that his relationship with Becca paled in comparison to her relationship with Garrett and Blake.
Interesting.
Without question. And Colton for sure. And like, I'm not saying there wasn't a connection there. I just know that deep down, Jason knew. And so when I think like you see that like nervousness and you just know. And I think you see that a little bit with like Colton and Becca was probably even more, because I don't think there was ever a real connection there.
Right.
I think Colton always kind of knew.
So who do you think, if it's a 2-person race or 3-person race now, who do you think
Early
after
on?
that first episode, who do you think's in that race?
Well, it's pretty, you can always kind of tell like, the girl who got the first impression. There's a lot of Hannahs, by the way.
There's
How do you
a
feel
lot of
about that? Are you
Hannahs.
excited that you're getting like name recognition, or is it almost like you feel less unique now? Because Hannah's not a.
Are you saying that I'm less unique now? What the fuck?
I mean, after the season, like Hannah might be like the new like Lauren. It's like, oh, another Lauren.
Yeah,
like, oh,
I know.
are you
I'm gonna
Hannah?
have to-
Oh, so not.
I'm
Because
gonna
Hannah's
have to
kind of a
go back
unique name.
to being a brunette after
Yeah.
this with so many blonde Hannahs. No, yeah, it's surprising because Hannah is not a super popular name. So there was like,
Ton.
yeah,
Like wow.
yeah,
And they seem to be players. Like
yeah. There's a lot of players. I feel like
there's like the girl who got the first impression rose. She's going to be there all season because you can tell. It's interesting. Sometimes it's unique on The Bachelor. It's different for The Bachelor, Bachelorette.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a history of The Bachelorette giving the first impression rose to the winner. And in fact, it's happened almost like every season. Did Garrett get it?
I don't remember. I know
No, he
Rachel.
did.
Rachel. Yeah, I think Garrett did. And
Actually, I think I might be the
Rachel
last
did.
person to get the first impression rose who didn't win on Andy's season. I was the runner-up.
Wow.
Yeah, which is kind of
That is
that's an
crazy.
insane track record. But most of the time, the only person I knew who wasn't getting my first impression rose was Vanessa. I was like, there's
Why?
no way, because out of the gate she was
Front runner.
front runner, and I was like, that's just too obvious. So I wanted to get, and again, Rachel was an easy choice because she was easily the person I had probably the second best connection with, and so I gave it to her. But like, I just wasn't going to give it to Vanessa. So they make their choices differently. But I think so. But the girl who got the first impression rose, is that Hannah? Was it Hannah? What's her?
I wrote it down on my serial killer notes somewhere.
Wait, I have her here. It's Hannah. Hannah G.
Yeah.
She's charismatic. Obviously, she's
she
very.
gave the commando gift.
She's very pretty.
Yeah.
You can like she can like she's gonna be around. She's not gonna be a villain for sure. I'd be surprised.
Catherine's the villain.
Nah, but Catherine's not a real villain.
I don't know.
It's
Who
not.
do you think's the villain?
Here's the thing. We'll figure it out. We don't yet, because here's the thing. You can tell Colton's not into Catherine.
Yeah.
His like, oh, fourth time's a charm. I can assure you, fourth time isn't a charm because it wasn't for me. The villain always is going to come from someone early on that there's a connection with. I think you know who the villain might be is the girl whose mom's in jail.
Oh, Demi.
Yeah, she's attractive. She's charismatic. She's outspoken, and Colton's going to like her. And she is going to ruffle feathers, and your villain always comes from someone who the lead has to be into, at least at first. There's a threat there where all the other girls are like, fuck this person. All this Catherine girl is just annoying. Colton's not into her.
Okay.
So I would be shocked if she ends up being the real villain of the season.
Okay.
That would-
take that.
yeah.
I'll take that. I think he's gonna.
Who's your winner?
Kaylin.
Which one is she?
Miss North Carolina. I think that was his first kiss, and I think it's probably a similar thing. Now that you said that about the rose, maybe he didn't give it to her because he didn't want
I think it might be Hannah G. Also, I think is that she another Hannah, or who's the girl from LA who wore like the flower dress? Cassie's a player.
Oh, the speech pathologist.
Yeah, she's
With the
she's very
butterflies?
attractive. She seems very nice, and unless she has this like secretive bitchy side that I don't see yet,
Yeah.
I think she's gonna get along with the women. She's top 4 for sure.
I think they're gonna also have Hannah, the regular Hannah, not Hannah G, the other Hannah, Miss Alabama, and Kaylin, because apparently there's like some tension between them two.
Oh, that's right. There's another there.
There's
She
little
could be
few
your
misses.
villain.
Yeah.
She could be your villain. Also, by the way, not cool for girls and guys who are on the future contestants. Do not ask the lead if you remember my name off the bat. Like, come on.
Yeah, that's hard.
That's like hard. It was a huge priority for me to like So basically what happens is you get a limo and there's 4 or 5 women in the limo and there's a break. And so it's like, hi, I'm Hannah. Hi, I'm Lauren. And after each limo, I would go through like the names with my producer. And it was big priority for me to like remember their names.
30 people.
It's 30 people. Your head's spinning. You're nervous. You're afraid if your wife's about. And so like the first girl's like, do you remember my name? You're literally hoping like, am I about to like literally? It's not a joke. You truly want to meet someone. You hope that it works.
Yeah.
So you don't know. And so this girl's like, do you remember my name? It's like, fuck you. Like, wow. This is really getting off to
McNutty. That was nutty.
Yeah, I don't know.
I love that line when she was like, yeah, remember me? Like, think about nuts. That's amazing.
I also you didn't watch my season with Alexis the dolphin shark, the sloth.
The sloth was unreal, but she went home, I think. Right?
Well, I think she was trying to copy an act that already was done. This whole like I'm gonna show up in a costume, not show my face. It takes someone to really appreciate a good joke for you to stick around. Apparently, Colton doesn't have a sense of humor. I don't know, maybe not.
Maybe he doesn't like sloth that much. Although he said it was one of his favorite animals. But it's hard with like such.
Who says that? That was clearly a disingenuous like. Colton is trying to be nice. Sloth's one of my favorite animals. Yeah, top 5 for sure. You know what I love most about them is like their laziness. They make me feel comfortable with being like chill and like very low key. This is why I love them so much. Like, who's ever said a sloth is one of their favorite animals?
Kristen Bell.
Touche.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, Cole's no Kristen Bell.
It's true.
Any other things we want to cover about The Bachelor before we move on?
The girl with the fake Australian accent.
I love that.
You liked it? Okay.
I thought it was funny, right?
Yeah.
And I loved her kind of aloofness about it. She was like, I mean, like, whatever. Like, it was almost like terrible idea, obviously.
Yeah.
But funny.
Okay.
I as a fan, I loved it. She's obviously very attractive. I think, unfortunately, she's going to be gone sooner than we think. Because she's very pretty. That's literally her only airtime of the episode.
That's true.
Which means that she did something very cool and clever for them to promote and use, and then we never saw her again.
Yeah, that's
so
a good
she's
point.
clearly going to be one of those girls that Colton doesn't vibe with at first. She's not going to have much to say, and she will ultimately be boring. And Colton will be like, "Well, I'm not that into her," and he's going to be like, "I'm into 5 other girls," and unless she's willing to like stir some shit up, she's just going to get sent home. Unfortunately. So like, I'd be shocked if she's there by week 5.
I feel like if I were to go on this show, people would assume I was boring. Do you know what I mean? Because unless you're like trying to stir the pot or create drama, you're not going to stand out.
It all depends. So much. My first night on The Bachelor, I'll never forget. I joke with the producers, the guys who are running the show now. One has left. I was a last second cast. The women executives wanted to cast me. The men executives did not because they thought I would be boring. I was 32, 33 at the time, selling software in Chicago, and they thought to themselves, yeah, fine. He's a decent looking guy, but he's going to be risk adverse, in terms of he's just another guy, that was their thought, right? And
that's the vibe I'm getting now.
Totally.
Was that a good neg? Did I do okay?
Yeah, it was really good.
Great.
Yeah,
Thanks.
but I knew what you were doing, so I just accepted it and I pretended it didn't bother me. And so I show up and you could tell, and I didn't know this at the time, but you could tell that I wasn't a priority for like the producers. At least the executive at the time walked into my room before we walked in limo, and she was running the show at the time. She's no longer with the show, and she's like, I think you're a player. She had believed that, and I thought she was just like producing me. But I could tell the other ones didn't. So like I didn't know how this works, but it's like 1:00 in the morning, and I haven't spoken with Annie at the time other than my intro. And I'm like, I literally had this thought to myself, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, honestly. And then I had this thought of like, you know what? I'm here. I'm at least going to talk to her. I'm not going to go home, because your only goal night 1 is to not go home night 1. That's your only real goal. And so finally I went up to a producer. I'm like, can you help me out? They're like, yeah, for sure. Talked to her. And again, immediately I thought to myself, I mean, that was not bad.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking after I spoke with her, it's just like, again, that was pretty good. Like, I wonder if I could get the first impression rose. And it was weird because I remember when she went, you go and get it. Like, there was something in my gut, thought to myself, I'm going to get this. And maybe that's just like, blind overconfidence in my, probably. And she did. And so my point is, I knew we had a connection. And so I was fucked at that point, in a sense that like, if she doesn't like me, if we don't have that connection night one, instead of becoming the villain of that season and one of the more polarizing people on Caitlin's season, and then eventually the Bachelor and hero on Paradise, I might have been just an afterthought, because I would have been the 33-year-old software guy who was like, I don't know, she's just not into me. I'm just gonna go home. It's fine, no big deal, And that, so the chance, like there's a lot of luck involved, and so if you met the Bachelor and you liked him, and he liked you, easily you could have been a hero, you could be a villain. You have opinions. If you have opinions, you're either going to be loved for it or judged for it in that world. And you're not going to
in the real world too.
True, but like in that world, you're not going to get a choice on what music they play when you're voicing said opinion, and how they frame it and the context in which it's aired. And then as someone who's like a mature woman who's like comfortable with the idea that every guy might not be into her, you might have just been fine with being like, yeah, he's just not into me. I'm going to go home, and I'm not going to go out of my way to do something crazy just to get my 15 minutes. Because like when they ask, like every season when you go on, they'll call you up, like, do you want to do anything? They literally would say something to you like, listen, we're not promising you, but if you like want to come out of a plane, we might make it. Yeah. We might do it. Like, but do you have an idea? Right. And I remember saying, no, I just want to meet Andy and I just want to be myself. So clearly I was a guy who's like, I'm just going to see if there's something. I wasn't willing to do something insane just to guarantee I was going to get airtime. Yeah. And so it varies. So you could have been just like me, where if they like you, it totally changes the playing field. Given
all of the heartbreak, 3 seasons, all of the heartbreak that you've faced through that all, would you now do it again?
I've always say about my experience on The Bachelor, I don't regret it. At all. It's changed my life, and for the most part, great ways. Everything I'm doing now is ultimately predicated on the time I've spent on the season. I'm not proud of it. I'm not, in the sense that I don't wear it with a badge of honor. I don't go walking around and be like, yeah, I'm the guy from The Bachelor. You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand that it's reality TV. I don't feel like it's some major accomplishment.
Experiences are going to have good and bad to any experience that you have, right? Even the best thing that you ever done probably had some sort of pitfall within it, right? Or something that was negative about it, but just sort of being like, oh, this is something that happened, period. And moving forward and learning from it is important. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what I try to do, but yeah, I think that's great. Well, how about we finally get into some Q&A with some fans.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm well.
My name's Nick. This is my friend Hannah. Hi. And what's your name?
I'm Abby.
Hi, Abby. I read your email, but why don't you just pretend I didn't? And why don't you, in the most succinct way, tell us your story.
So I was in a very long-term relationship with this guy that I broke it off with about a year ago.
How long?
And we were together for 4 years.
Okay.
I think eventually I just got bored with him. As bad as that sounds.
It doesn't sound bored. It sounds honest, but that's fine. People get bored.
Yeah. It was a long time to be together. We started dating when he was like 23. I think I was 24.
Okay.
And he plays minor league baseball and didn't make a lot of money. So I was kind of the breadwinner through the entire relationship. I think that grew like a lot of resentment, and I don't know. But
from him?
No,
from her.
Like by me.
Oh, okay.
Like
you're like, I'm paying your dinner.
Yeah.
But wasn't it like maybe an investment on your part? I mean, big leagues here.
Well, yeah. So flash forward, now he's in the big leagues.
Yeah.
After we broke it off.
Someone's like, uh-oh.
This is Avril Lavigne's Skater Boy.
All right, so is he in the big leagues now? We won't ask his name. Is he good?
He is, and we're still friends. And
is he still in his first contract? Is he still in arbitration? Okay, I'm sorry. These are baseball terms that most people listening won't know. All right, so he's in the big leagues now. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. We're still friends. We still talk pretty frequently.
How frequently?
He's made it clear that, he's wanting to see if we can get back together eventually. But I've kind of moved on with my life. I've started dating another guy.
Okay.
Who's younger than me. He's currently deployed right now because we're both in the Army. And he's
thank you for serving.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Much gratitude.
And
how much younger is this gentleman, the new guy?
He's 5 years younger than me.
Damn, girl. Wow. She likes him young.
So he's a lot of fun. And
I bet.
I'm looking for a perspective. Like,
sure.
Is there a deciding point in anybody's lives where you're like, what's best for me, and how do you pursue that?
Sure. Do you want to?
Yeah.
Do you have opinions? I'm
so
full
many.
of them, but I feel like go ahead.
Well, thank you for sharing your story. That takes a lot to put all of that out there. I think you already sort of answered your question in your question. I think the fact that you said the words fall back and going into comfort is pretty powerful and pretty potent. And I think when you sort of like dating should be easy, but it shouldn't be like, oh, this is the path of least resistance. Do you get the difference there? Like, oh, I already feel comfortable with this guy, so I can just sort of be in my sweatpants and not think about anything, and he's making money now, so we're good. It should flow, but it shouldn't be, oh, this is already there. I already know I have that in the bag. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, exactly.
And then the only other thing I will say, and then let you take it away, is...
It's not 101. We can just wrap each other.
I was in a 7-year on and off relationship, and I was talking with somebody, and I was saying, yeah, like, he's great, and he's this, and he's that. And I just feel like, that I could settle down with him, right? Mm-hmm. You don't want to settle with anybody. You want to be so flipping excited to spend every single day with them, and whether they're making money or not. Because if he was the one for you, you wouldn't give a fuck if he was making 0 cents. Do you know what I mean? The fact that came into your mind is, I think, very telling. And I think the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with, it doesn't matter if you are going to the nicest restaurant in the coolest place, or if you are sitting on the couch all day. Like, you could be in a, I don't know, a paper box with them, and you would be like, this is an adventure. Do you get what I'm saying? And you want to feel that way about somebody. Don't do yourself a disservice by not feeling that way about somebody.
Makes sense.
What do you think?
I feel like, looking at her, she seems really, really torn. I feel like you just seem like, I don't know. Here's my question. I got a couple more follow-up questions. Are these two men, for the most part, your only two relationships you've had? Serious relationships?
No.
No.
No, I've had previous serious relationships.
Okay. Because, it's
most of them.
Not long-term?
Most of them are all long-term.
All long-term.
What? Wait, what is making you, like, you seem a little emotional. What's making you emotional?
That's what I mean, right?
Yeah, there's something that's hurting you. What is that feeling?
Oh, gosh. I don't even know. I didn't realize I was...
No, that's okay, because obviously this is a very emotionally charged question.
Listen, things that stood out to me, and the reason why I asked that question is you described the first guy as safe and wonderful and nice, and that's great. I mean, that makes him a great guy. It doesn't necessarily make him the guy for you, right? I think that's important. And I think, listen, maybe this guy who you're hanging out with now is your guy. I would tend to think he's not. I mean, listen, I guess it's women definitely mature faster than men, and maybe this guy is some amazing dude, and I'm sure he is very exciting, but also there are important aspects of connecting with someone, and exciting, while great, is only one very small aspect of a relationship, and you have to make sure, especially if you're looking for the one, that it's sustainable long long term. Exciting in the first 6 months, the honeymoon phase is one thing. Be able to like, if that's the one thing that's most exciting about him is he is spontaneous. That's a hard thing for him to live up to for the rest of your life, is what I'm saying. True. There needs to be deeper connections, and so comfort is an important thing. You know, there's nothing wrong with I think it's good to say I'm comfortable with someone. I don't think it's good to say I'm bored with someone. That's also not as equally as good. I guess my point is, your person doesn't have to be either of these two guys, and my gut tells me it's neither. My gut tells me this guy that you're currently hanging out with is serving a specific purpose, and that is you're looking for excitement in your life. You're serving, you're sacrificing your life by giving yourself to serving to the military. And I've never served in the military, but I'm assuming there's a lot of structure and there's a lot of limitations on what you're able to do. And this guy is offering you an outlet not only to your past relationship with this other guy, but just your life in general. And that's exciting and fun and really cool. But I have a hard time believing he's going to be able to keep up with you long term. He's certainly, and you're going to end up breaking this guy's heart, by the way, the younger guy, because someone that young, he's going to try to convince you that he's mature enough for you and that he can connect with you. And eventually I'd be shocked if one day you don't wake up and be like, nah. Right? That's just my gut. Yeah. On the flip side, this other guy, like, if he, you know, you don't seem very shallow at all. So like, it's fun to play about the fact he's in the major leagues now. He's boring to you, and that sucks. Yeah. And that sucks that like you can love him as a person, but like you think of the rest of your life. If he's boring now, shit, what's gonna? I mean, and I get a lot of questions from like, it's surprising the people who like I get constant questions about. I've been married for 5 years. I've been married for 10 years. We've lost that spark, et cetera, et cetera. Don't make that mistake of, you know, again, that's settling.
I mean, that's exactly what I was looking for, and I've talked to my friends about this same thing, obviously, and they say the same thing. Like, it might not be either of them, and that's okay. And I don't know, that little voice in the back of my head is like, you're almost 30. Like,
that's exactly what I was gonna say. I was like, the fact that she said she was almost 30, you're about to get out of the military. You have so many life changes happening right now. Yeah. I'm sure you want that like one security blanket essentially, but that is a lifetime decision. Yeah, but you don't need to make that decision right now.
It sounds to me like you're in control of both of these relationships. So be careful in the sense that don't take advantage of that. Don't keep this guy around as a safety net, the major league player. Don't be a dick. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't be friends with him, especially as long as he wants to be with you. And don't pretend or lie to yourself that you can be. You're going to have to cut him off. Otherwise, you're just kind of being a dick. Otherwise, you're not letting him move on. So I think you should, if you decide that he's not your guy, I think you should cut him off. In the other guy too, I mean, again, it sounds like you haven't quite figured it out. I know I told you my opinion, but I think you need to vet that out sooner than later and not lead him on, because he's going to fall for you. He's going to think you're the one. And I'm just saying, like, you need to be upfront with him that this might be just a fun thing. So that eventually you're not going to end up breaking his heart. But you probably will in the meantime. I'm just saying you're definitely in control, and be mindful of that and don't take advantage of it. And don't play the victim because you don't know what to do with these two guys. I think it's very easy for people to be like, well, I'm confused. I don't know what to do. So I'm going to focus on what my needs. In the meantime, these other two guys are just waiting around for you to make a decision. And it's kind of on you, since you have all the power right now.
I wonder too, if maybe you don't know your needs, since you've been in a lot of like long-term serious relationships. I wonder if like maybe taking some time to get to know yourself and be single would allow you to have more clarity. spin this, it's no bueno, right? Because let's say he doesn't have a girlfriend and he's buying you drinks. Now he's a liar. Or he does have a girlfriend and he's buying you drinks. Do you want to date somebody who, when he has a girlfriend, buys another girl drinks? I don't think so.
But also keep in mind, do we agree that we can buy coworkers drinks without it meaning it's a sexual thing?
Is he buying all the coworkers drinks, or is it just you he's buying drinks? Is he doing everybody on me?
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Like if it's everybody...
that you can buy a coworker drink, but not like multiple drinks and not like only one person.
Yeah.
Some guy you barely know is kind of flirting with you, and that is what's exciting, and I get that because, I mean, it's exciting.
Yeah, flirting. Having somebody flirt with you is nice.
But
Take it as a compliment.
You're getting caught in it. Yeah. So I think we should just shut him down. Stop letting him buy you drinks.
Yeah.
Hey, Nick. My question is just how do you tell the difference between just not being interested in a guy and dating anxiety?
Ooh. How did you tell?
How do you tell?
I think you know.
Right?
I think you know. And if you're questioning it, I think it's a no-go.
Well, it's almost like a contradiction because I don't know if when I get anxiety about someone, I must really like them because there's that fear of rejection.
But you know you're interested in.
Yeah, but if you're confused about your interest, I wouldn't necessarily have anxiety. So maybe, yeah.
Yeah. I think anxiety comes with really liking somebody and being interested with somebody. But I think if you're questioning your interest and having anxiety.
You could just be an anxious person.
Yeah. Which I am as well.
I am too. But you also definitely don't like them.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm so anxious. I don't even know if I like them. That must be very confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't like them. Move on.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on ethical non-monogamy? Is that something that you would participate in? Why or why not?
I've gotten this question more and more. It seems to be becoming more mainstream of people actually questioning the idea of true monogamy.
What are your thoughts? Would you engage?
No, it's not for me. Interesting enough, I have close friends who are married, and I don't know the specifics about their marriage, but there's some looseness in their monogamy. And I will say, from what I can tell, they have the healthiest relationship that I'm aware of, based on the fact that they're on the same page and how well they communicate. It has not necessarily to do with their sexual preferences, but it's the fact that they are so connected on the same page. What I'm saying is, I guess it's a preference.
Yeah.
If you're into it, I just think if you are into it, you need to find someone who's equally into it. I don't think you can convince someone. You can't be into it and hope that you meet someone and be like, all right, listen, I'm into this thing. You're probably not, but let me warm you up to the concept. I think that's a bad idea.
Yeah. I have a girlfriend whose boyfriend for a year went to polyamorous parties, but didn't engage, quote unquote.
Hoping that she would
get into it.
That never works.
The draw of polyamory, besides the sleeping with multiple partners, but why it works for some people, it's not for me, but why it works for some people is that open and honest communication that you need in that sort of relationship, and also setting boundaries.
Total preference, I think, when it comes to, as I think most sexual things are in relationships, it's all about preference and communication, which I don't think people do enough of. But
right.
I'm not here to judge. It's just you need to be on the same page.
Yeah, you do you, boo.
Hi, Nick. Do you think that everything happens for a reason, or do you think that we find reasons for things that happen afterwards? And secondly, what are some non-negotiables for you in a relationship?
The first question is one of my favorite. I'm really curious about your opinion on this.
I don't think the two are mutually exclusive. I think it's both and. I think finding the justification gives you that reason, and being able to do that leads you to next opportunity. I think just being able to reflect and evolve is that reason itself. That's what I think. What do you think?
I think shit happens. I think things definitely don't happen for a reason. I do think, and this is different.
You learn from that.
Totally different thing. I absolutely think that if you are open to it and allow it to happen, things will almost often work themselves out. I do not think they're predestined to do so. And I do think when people traditionally say everything happens for a reason, or that happened for a reason, people say it as a way to make them feel better about shitty things that happen. Maybe that shitty thing that happened wouldn't have happened, and you have to accept it, kind of thing. It's like, well, I cheated. Well, maybe was that supposed to happen? Did that happen for a reason? No, you made that decision.
But now you can find reason in realizing,
you can always learn from it, but it didn't happen for a reason. You made a shitty choice, and you have an opportunity to learn from it or not.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah,
I think you're right. Okay, what are your non-negotiables? What are your deal breakers?
Hygiene.
Okay.
I mean, like,
do you have to shower every day? Because
you just have to
might fail on that.
I don't care. I don't care about how often you shower. Just have good breath.
Okay.
There's a lot of good-looking people, but like bad breath, it does not discriminate. Obviously, I have preferences, but I wouldn't say non-negotiables in terms of.
Interesting. That's the only non-negotiable you have?
In a sense, yes.
You did say at the beginning of this, I don't know if it was behind the scenes or not, that you would date a serial killer. So I guess you have no non-negotiables now.
I mean, as long as she doesn't kill me, I mean, it's fine. I mean, it would look really like, listen,
Empathy,
it wouldn't,
not a non-negotiable.
It wouldn't be good for my brand just to come out that like, hey, Nick's his girlfriend, she's super cool, but I'm pretty sure she killed a couple of people like years back, but I don't know. What about you?
Serial killer would probably be a non-negotiable.
Fine. Yes. Yeah. I won't.
And a cat person.
Murder is a crime. And a cat person.
Two together.
It's funny. My friend has a cat, and in my Instagram stories, I did like and everyone's like, "Oh, you like cats?"
It's
like,
a thing.
Fuck! I just put one cat in my Instagram story.
I will tell you that.
It's weird to know if a guy owned cats.
I would swipe left on a guy who had a picture with a cat, and my boyfriend likes cats, and I've made a boundary that we will never own one, and I never want to see one in the same vicinity as him, but I've accepted it.
Hey, Nick. I have been in a relationship for 4 years. We live together, own a house together, but anytime kind of marriage comes up, the relationship or marriage conversation gets avoided. So I'd love some help.
My guess is she's probably in her mid-20s.
Okay.
It's a tough question. I mean, like, he definitely doesn't want to get engaged anytime soon. I think that's safe to say. And I think you just have to decide whether you're okay with that.
My thing is 4 years in is difficult for me. Not because like, oh, maybe he doesn't want to get married or he does want to get married or he doesn't believe in the institution, whatever it may be.
Sure.
I think first, if marriage is a priority for you, bring that up on the first or second date. Don't wait 4 years down the road. You know what I mean?
Guys love to say things they don't mean early on.
Don't tell me that. Why are you avoiding this conversation? What is making you nervous about it? Let's approach those issues. Yeah.
I think after 4 years, I think we can agree that you have the right to not let him avoid the conversation. Yes. And if he's not willing to have that conversation, then I think it's then on you to decide whether you want to be in that relationship anymore.
Yeah. Preach.
As I mentioned, guys, last week, I founded a company, Natural Habits Essential Oils, that I'm really proud of and would love to just talk more about it because obviously it's mine. But we have essential oil blends that are USDA organic certified. So again, I don't want to spend too much time boring you with my project, even though I want to talk all day about it. If you've ever interested in essential oils, wanted to use it, our goal is to try to make essential oils easy and safe for everyone. They've been very beneficial for me in my life. I got into it with my struggle with anxiety, as a lot of people have, and headaches. I'm not like, I don't like to self-medicate. I don't like to put a lot of things in my body. My sister, who's a holistic nutritionist, really turned me onto them, and she's very anti that. So I was just looking for more holistic approaches. And they, I was kind of a skeptic at first, but they just really helped me. It's great with aromatherapy. They have some very powerful attributes to it. And when you blend various essential oils, they can maximize those benefits, which was confusing for me at first. And we try to make that easy for everyone. So
what's a good starter one for somebody like me who's never really gotten into it?
Well, that's the thing. It's actually the Natural Habits Daily Bundle is a good starter. Thank you for asking. These are specific blends. So we have 4 blends. One is Rise for waking up, mental clarity. You'd use it to start your day. Center would be for migraines and headaches. Protect would be just using it every day to boost your immunity or detox your system. And then our Release is for anxiety and calming down and going to bed. So they're ready to go out of the box. They're diluted with organic jojoba oil, so they're safe to put directly on your skin. Check us out at nhoils.com. 20% off with code MAKEITNATURAL. We know you'll love it. And I mean, Hannah, you definitely have to try some.
I'm Jewish. I'll take the 20% off.
You didn't hear that from me. She's a rock star. I know that you loved this episode. I did. I haven't even heard it back yet. Hannah, thanks so much for doing this. You're fantastic, wonderfully opinionated. Where can people find you?
People can find me at Hannah Cranston on Instagram and Twitter, and at Hannah Cranston host on Facebook. I also have my new podcast, Too Much to Handle, where we talk about sex and dating, career pros and woes, and body issues.
Are you going to have me on your podcast?
You better come on. It was not a question. It was a command.
She went to Duke, by the way, people, which I don't know about you. I just thought was really cool. I don't know. I feel like, first of all, I couldn't afford to go to Duke, nor do I know if I'm smart enough to get accepted into Duke. And so I was just really into it when I learned that she went to Duke. So my first Duke friend.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
It's been awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.